Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Living World of Darkness, night, night in New York. In this particular scene in the bunker, William has taken the time to find Miss Gwendolyn to inform her about the information he has recorded about the events in the hospital involving blood supplies going dry, at least for the hospital standards, and to better understand the quality of their missions, the quality of the next missions if they ever work together. And where would we find
Gwen will be sitting in her usual spot. Uh, she still has a notebook. It's turned to a different page. She's writing a few more notes down.
and William will kind of knock on the walls to get her attention.
She'll look up and smile. William, it's good to see you again.
And he nods to likewise. And he goes through his pockets and brings out a voice recorder. I have some information that you might want to hear about.
Oh, well, it's at least it was somewhat productive. Our excursion.
Yeah, and he looks at her with a slightly disappointed look on his face, like he understands why she says that. It was unexpected, which we should be always expecting, but you can't make a plan for everything. The main thing is we got it alive, and we have some idea for sure the Sabbat is trying to take that place down, take that place over, and it's transporting blood. And with this recordings that I had with Mr. Salvatore, we might be able to determine how and where they're doing it.
Right. If we can take care of that, we can knock out the blood supply, definitely. Or at least hinder it. It takes time to build these kinds of operations up.
Small things become big things, man. So we need to take every advantage that we have.
Gwen will nod, and if he passes the voice recorder or turns it on, she'll listen to what it said. Which is pretty much what what's his face was saying in the scene.
Yeah, Dr. Salvatore. One of the main things that you'll hear from it is that when I asked him, when did you start noticing this issue? He said about 3 weeks ago. So any context of 3 weeks ago from that day that you would know might be able to determine certain things.
Gwen takes a few notes on what she's hearing, just so she can take it down for herself. Interesting. It's an interesting time frame. 3 weeks.
And obviously, the point of neglect, Sabbat influence, which if I can possibly use some of my sources, though it may be difficult, get some people outside of New York to better investigate the situation. I asked them that. I told them that I would try to do that, and I will. It would be useful. We can't trust any sources that derive from New York at this point.
Yeah, even my own, well, you can't use them that overtly. They disappear. And she just kind of looks, because she's pretty sure William knows exactly what she's talking about.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting having finding ways to use influences in a way that won't get them quickly taken away by the spot.
Well, at this point, we're forced to be creative, which I don't mind that.
I like creating things, being creative, finding new ways to use my influences. I mean, obviously, I wish it wasn't as high stakes, but we can't all have our druthers, can we?
And William nods that. Do you have any critiques or praises you need to give them that you wish to tell me for the mission? I have some for you as well, and if Sanson shows up or I find him, I'll give him my opinion about the situation as well.
Well, she looks at the the empty shoulder holster on her side. For one thing, I'm gonna clean that thing more carefully. Good God. Uh, Having someone in the back was very useful. We wouldn't have known there was two other people coming in. As far as tactics go, she thinks well, we at least did the best we could. As far as having you in the back, bringing up the rear, kept things in the CT room from getting too bad. Other than that, I think it went all right. There was definitely a surprise. I mean, it was a surprise we were expecting, just not at that exact moment.
I wish we could have kept the doctor alive. I was surprised you weren't able to control him. You must have been really strong.
His his will was something else. You don't usually see mortals with that kind of mental fortitude. She says almost praising her opponent, which is interesting. Praising him on his mental fortitude, rather than being disappointed that she couldn't dominate or entrance someone.
And he slightly nods to that, understanding the.
Still, it would have been nice to at least question him, but we at least got a time reference from the fat guy, who's she kind of grins. Currently under investigation for murder. I do think leaving him alive with his memory going was a good touch. That way, the police have someone to blame.
Um, yes, that was. We were able to create a scapegoat. I commend him on doing what he did.
Thankfully, Sam has some connections with the police. I was a bit too injured to go up there myself. Wouldn't have been too bad, except, well, when you have wounds that aren't bleeding, that's a big problem.
And he kind of winces when you bring that up. But a person in your position shouldn't be on the front lines.
True, and when I first came here, I didn't expect I would be. Then, in my first month in the city, we ashed a red blister. That was something else. You kind of learn what you have to learn.
And he nods at that. I will say that in hindsight, me and Kate maybe should have already started moving instead of hoping to hide. Because in the end, the police were going to tape that place down. We should have been a bit more proactive in our escape. But I was hoping that the police officer may have, if he was a man of only one, may have focused more on the crowd control, making sure people didn't go to the area.
True enough. Though thankfully we plugged the only connection only connection to me that getting into that hospital would have. After all, my agent just gave Dr. Williams a call directly. And she kind of rummages through her bag, pulls out a phone. Yeah, and then I managed to get his phone too, so at the very least I can use my influences in the future now. They can really risk them too much. Or at least eliminating the risks to them.
And Will again nods to that. I do ask if we're going to do another task like that again. Maybe we should keep a game plan. Like, definitely we undershot the idea of the cameras. The metal detectors as well. We need to keep in mind of mortal deterrence.
True enough. Something that'll make future reconnaissance a bit easier. Or at least go more smoothly. Definitely things to remember.
And after that, like, so it would get us. It was mildly effective to get us to the metal detectors. Sam's use of the disciplines could have exposed us earlier than we needed to.
Gwen pauses a moment. I probably wouldn't have used that discipline. I probably would have just had everyone pass the medal to me, or pass the medal to one person, and convince the guards that it was a knee replacement or hip replacement. It was fairly old. Still set off metal detectors. I'm rather good at convincing most kind.
And he nods at that. I expect nothing less from the. And he says in a slightly embellishing tone, a great actress.
She smiles at that. I do wish I could act again, but that has nothing to do with this. Kind of, when you don't age and you're supposed to have been dead for a while, it puts a damper on things. But I get to oversee the up and coming actors and actresses in the city when I'm on the surface. Thankfully, most of my endeavors are self sustaining and fairly discreet.
William nods at that. I and he kind of stops to think about it. I never really had any major grandiose jobs. If anything, I'm basically a over glorified delivery boy, if not just a simple man that does a simple job.
We need those jokes too. Everyone needs things delivered, right?
Yeah. In return, I also, to make sure that I can keep on delivering, repair vehicles for me and others. I feel that my business is going relatively well, despite the Sabat incursion, which I guess means I'm kept myself low enough that I don't suspect my place.
So that's a good thing. It also means they don't suspect it's Camarilla influenced. Which I haven't heard any stories about urban stages going up in flames, so I guess that's it.
And he kind of winces at that, and I will say this: once I arrived in the city, my ghoul called me saying one of my cars was missing, so I need to investigate that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose everything's not completely safe. I'm coming up with ideas. After all, we need places to feed. We need places to be able to go to the surface.
Once I verify my place is safe for the time being, I don't necessarily have a lot, and then may not have food to your taste. I have um, willing enough employees once I have in my private quarters within the building.
She nods. I, if it comes down to it, can we need to vet the place first. Make sure the Sabat aren't trying to infiltrate. But it is a fairly big company with a lot of employees. There's a lot to be said about dinners with the CEO.
Indeed.
Which can be fairly useful in our situation. We just can't go to any place really more than once too often.
Of course. But and he I'll ask for the of course if you need to keep listening to the recording do keep it, but if I ever need if I need to go to the surface, I would like to acquire it back. If you would like, I can listen to it and create a hard copy for yourself.
And she nods and hands him the recorder back. think I have all the notes, but it would be useful to have a record, at least for our purposes.
And he nods. Well, if you excuse me, I have some other work I'd like to try to get done today.
Have a good evening.
And he bows slightly and begins to walk off.
Gwen will return to her notebook, looking at the notes from Dr. Salvatore, and then turning to a new page, she starts taking notes on urban stages, and that is where she spends her night.
And with this, we will end our scene. Thank you, watchers, for watching, players for playing. Have a good morning, evening, or afternoon.